Hello? There's one person. Oh, now it says 11. It went from 1 to 11. All right. Hello, everybody. I have a debate on. I might have 2 debates this week. I'm not sure. I am supposed to debate on modern day debates on Friday, but this isn't 100% confirmed yet. I reached out to James. So we'll see during this live stream, maybe I'll get an email back from James on confirmation or not. I repaired the patches on my wall here, except I can still see them because the paint is a little bit yellow. I think I just need to do a second coat. The tools are still sitting there. That is so amateurish on my part. But anyways, hello, son. Let's see here. Bring on the prep. We are going to do that, but first we're going to play Wordle together. I got so incredibly addicted to Wordle for back like about 2 years ago. I played like 500 games of Wordle, I think, on this website, Wordle Unlimited, and my success rate was about 96%. I'm going to show you guys my strategy. This is the first word I pick. This is the second word I pick. This is the third word I pick. Now, why do I do that? Because those are 15, or no, not 15, because I reused E. I literally went through the English alphabet and I picked the most commonly used letters. I tried to figure out the 15 most commonly used letters. And this is all of them, except I think G. If I'm remembering correctly, I think G is one of the 15 most used letters in English, but I don't use it because I couldn't find a good word. And then what I did is I tried to figure out what are the 3 words I could play in order that. So like I do a golf score. I take a word and I say, what is the word that has the most letters, or sorry, that has the lowest score? So if it contains the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth most commonly used letters, if you can find one word that does that, it has the lowest possible score. And then I move on to, okay, without reusing any letters, what's the next word that uses the lowest score? And these are the best 3 possible combinations. I did figure out another combo that's very similar, but now I can't remember what those words were off the top of my head. But this is what I do. And yeah, I have to reuse E just because there weren't any other good choices. But that's the only repeat is the letter E in there. What are the most common letters in English? ETAOINSRHL. So steam is 7, 2, 1, 3, And then M is kind of a ways down there, so it's really good. But I don't, is G 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, W. Interesting. So W is the 15th most. F is the 16th, so I'm going outside the 15. And then is it I? Oh yeah, I. Duh. Stupid me. So I is the letter I'm missing. Okay. So let's go. I'm only going to do this until we have like maybe 50 people in here, and then we'll move on. So I have I know it can't be scant, but I might find out where the other strategy you can use is, instead of trying to find out where a letter goes, just eliminate as many letters as possible. So then what I usually do is I'll do something like this, gripe. Now I know that's not the word, and I don't play the hard version where you have to use a letter if it came up. But G is a common letter, I is a common letter, P is fairly common. Now R and E have already been used, but this, I don't know. In my mind, this helps. Okay, so gripe is not on there. So now it looks like we're in trouble, but the odds of getting this right are actually pretty high. But I haven't played Wordle in a really long time. So, scans. Okay. Snack. This is our last try. Yep, there we go. So we got it on the last chance. I wish I could show you my analytics. I can't, right? Because this isn't going to save them, is it? No. I wish I could show you my analytics. I normally get it right on the fourth guess, like on average. But anyways, stain, chord, flume. Okay, so, huh. What do you guys think it is? Spanky? Nope, Spanky doesn't fit. You can't know anything unless you worship Spanky. Oh, that's true. Good thing I do. Why are we here? We're doing debate prep, but I'm just going to play Wordle for the first like 5 minutes just for funsies. If you don't like it, then whatever. No, it can't be twist. But I want to know where T goes. Holy moly. Well, that was bad. T, so I have a T at the end, and I do not have an S at the beginning. Or, oh, this is going to be a weird word. Or maybe it won't be. Ends in it and has an S either in the second. Is it spite? S? No, it can't be spite because S isn't the first letter. Piss it? No. It either has to be SIT or something. It has to end in SIT. Or, I mean, yeah. Yeah, it has to end in SIT. Split? No, it can't be split because it doesn't start with S. And there is no L. Pigget? There is no way that that's a word. Oh, man. Insit? No, it can't be that. Posit? I posit? No, it can't be that. It can't be that because there's no O. That is a good guess, though. Visit? Oh, duh. You feel so stupid so often. 20 imaginary points to Tador. Visit. All right. We'll do 2 more games is all. So stain, chord. Okay. Nope, I'm going with flume. Okay, so we got crush. There we go. Stain cord flume has never let me down, except sometimes it lets me down. Stain. Wow. Okay. Taint. No. Tay. Oh man. Tay. Tints. No, there's no A in that. I'm gonna do it anyways. Okay. What the heck does this start with? Tacit? No. Good guess though. Stop guessing posit. Okay, this will be the last one, everybody. Let's see. Works 90% of the time, every time. It's actually 96. There's actually 3 blue, 1 brown. He has a video where here I'll show it. Well, we're not going to play it, but 3 blue, 1 brown Wordle. He created a program where he finds the best opener, but I think his whole thing is it's just the first word. And he ended up with crane, and he did it like I don't know if it's a permutation or what exactly, but he just had the game simulated countless times. But I mean, I tried other strategies, but stain cord flume always worked best for me. What is this? Okay, I'm just doing it. Flume. Okay, now we're in a shitload of trouble here. Vista? You are a genius. Thank you. All right. So here's what we're doing. I am debating this guy whose name is Brian Lauer. And the topic of the debate is really, really incredibly nebulous. The topic of the debate, I actually forgot what it is. It is the proper perspective of the past, present, and future. The proper perspective of the past, present, and future. So I don't know what that means because it's never been clarified exactly. But we're going to get a sense of what Brian Lauer thinks, how he thinks, if he knows how to think, and all this good stuff. So I watched like 10 minutes of this, but that was like 2-3 months ago because it was about 2 months ago. That's when we set up this debate. So it's been a long time, and like I said, I've only watched a little bit. Did I watch the recent Dave versus Sabur, who I now refer to as subpar debate? I did, and I'll announce it here first. Professor Dave's going to be on the channel next week. He and I are going to discuss the debate. So, whoop, whoop. I'm happy about that. Anyways, let's get started.
Freedom to think.
And by let's get started, I mean let me pause literally right away and change the playback speed because I ain't got all day. There we go. What does proper mean? Yeah, I know. So I think I kind of have a strategy for where I'm going to go with this. It'll be something to the effect of we all exist in the world and try to make sense of the world through whatever means we have access to, and with help from the scientific method. So we all have a truth is that which corresponds to reality type perspective of what makes good rational sense. The only people that betray that are people that hold to some sort of rigid dogma. But they only do it when what's obvious interferes with the dogma that they have. And so I am just going to basically try to point out that his whole belief system will be a contradiction in a sense.
Go wherever the evidence leads. And if we see an incredible design, we're going to look for an incredible...
Well, let's start from the very, very beginning here. Jesus Christ.
Greetings to the brightest audience in America. Thanks so much for showing up.
Creation Science 101. Well, that's a contradiction.
And welcome to Creation Science 101, where we're going to explore.
Are you accepting guest requests? I did pin the invite link, so I'm open to it. So I guess, yeah, I'll just leave this up here.
Explore with open minds, not limited to theories of blind chance and random collisions of atoms. And I'm so excited about this because we have the freedom to think.
Okay, he actually does talk kind of fast.
And go wherever the evidence leads. And if we see an incredible design, we're going to look for an incredible designer, which they can't do in our government classes because they're forced to think inside this government imposed box that says all there is matter and energy. That's all there is in science.
Yeah, those are the only kinds of things that science is capable of interacting with. And show us your left foot. Well, I got socks on. Petra, I don't know. So, I mean, you paid for it. So, there you go. Very disappointing. Because like I said, I have socks on. But, you know, if people are going to pay for foot content, then I guess we're going to do foot content on here. So this guy, he has a Rumble account too. And his Rumble account is basically the only thing it is anti-vaccination stuff, especially COVID things. So that's basically it. So I'm not going to go there, and I'm not going to let the debate when we have it go there either. But
well, hey, I got a question. What's information? That's not matter. That's not energy. What's information? There's so much more than
information. Is a description of it's a description of matter and energy. I heard Blitz give a really great definition of information, and but now I can't remember what it was. It was something to the effect of information is, what the hell was it? It's so hard to give a definition without saying the word information. But it was something to the effect of the relationship between parts of a system. Something like that. Let me actually pull something up. Definition of information: facts provided or learned about something or someone. Yeah, that's incredibly vague. Second definition is what is conveyed or represented by a particular arrangement or sequence of things. So yeah, I really like that. I think that's a good one. But yeah, the way Blitz put it was really great. I don't remember. He's live right now. I could go and ask him, but no, I'm not going to do that.
And just matter and energy. Okay, Creation Science 101 is going to meet the second Thursday of every month until the summer. And then we're going to have fun. We're going to bike and hike and kayak or whatever. And just think of this as your club, because this is a joint venture between the Central Minnesota Creation Science Association, which is a fancy way of saying our local creation.
I'm from South Dakota, and he's got a pretty heavy Minnesota accent. The way he's saying Minnesota, it's funny.
Club and Grace Campus Fellowship. And if you want to know what's happening, we've got the Facebook pages that you can follow. The next event is going to be from our regional creation. They spent Snavely's there. And so I'm
don't care.
And Creation or Freedom, I'm going to go there and get in Minnesota. Oh, and a lot of these talks show up.
This is just a commercial so far.
Science books, information in your class, you're only getting half of it, so your conclusion is not informed. Mutated animal, like your so when I'm not on the road, I like to go to St. Cloud State. And I was there yesterday promoting.
Yeah, St. Cloud State, huh? So I went to college at Northern State University. And so St. Cloud State was in our conference, Division II conference, the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference. So I'm not sure if I've ever been to St. Cloud, but we would see them all the time. So that's funny.
Putting this talk, and a student walked by and said, "Go home." And I said, "Well, that's not too tolerant. I'm just here to tell you you're not a mutated animal, like your textbook says."
Yeah, except we are.
You know, we want you to get all the information so you can come to an informed conclusion, and you're not getting all the information in your class. You're only getting half of it, so your conclusion is not informed.
Well, you can get that information anywhere else, but no, I mean, they should teach science in science classes, and there's nothing scientific about magic.
But anyhow, I love going there, especially in December. It's a fun place to go. I go there with my Bluetooth speaker and I play them Christmas carols.
My experience with Minnesota is mostly just Fargo. Well, Fargo is in North Dakota. I assume you either mean the movie or the TV series, neither of which I've seen. Does most of that show take place in Minnesota? I guess maybe it does. I don't know.
And wish them Merry Christmas. And it's like, hey, have you gotten their free gift of eternal life that's been bought and paid for by Jesus Christ? And we just talked to them, and we just
this is still just a commercial.
Information to come to an informed conclusion. We're going to look at two histories. We're going to define terms. We're going to look at laws of physics. And we're also going to look at logical fallacies and why it matters. Okay, that's the game plan for today. Okay, and basically, this is not science versus religion. No. This is science based on one view of history that acknowledges God versus science based on another view of history that doesn't acknowledge God.
I mean, that's what you say, but then you put this ridiculous straw man down here.
So basically, one has a creator and one has blind chance and random collisions of atoms.
I've never thought about this before, but how is God not blind chance? Because we have no idea what kind of God we would end up with or what the God will do. So that's completely blind chance. And we don't believe in random collisions of atoms. These things are governed by natural law, but God can violate that at any time. So literally, no you. I need an Uno reverse card. I don't think we even have an Uno deck here in the house. Maybe we do.
That's the foundation. That's the belief system of the past. It's our perspective of the past. And we need to get our perspective of the past right, or our perception of the present will be wrong, and our focus on the future will be wrong. And so,
so considering the topic of our debate is what's the proper perspective of the past, present, future, I think this is probably the perfect thing to watch.
Let's take a look at these two perspectives of the past. Okay, the evolutionary timeline. Basically, 13 billion years ago, there was a Big Bang. Okay, that's the origin of...
Yep, this is scientifically known.
Space, time, and matter. Where did the material come from? Not sure. Okay, and then billions of years, after billions of years, the stars evolved, the chemicals evolved. 4 billion years ago, Earth comes into being.
Yep, this is also scientifically known.
And then 3 billion years ago, the very first life comes into being, the very first living cell. And from that single living cell comes all the plants and animals and people that have ever lived.
Well, he's using Comic Sans, so you know what? We're done with this. I literally know everything I need to know, and we will not... No, I'm just kidding. But I think you should probably be disqualified from a debate if you use Comic Sans. That's just my personal opinion.
From that single living cell. Okay, that's the evolution timeline. Blind chance, random collisions of atoms. Okay, how does that compare to the biblical timeline? Well, can you see that? Thousands of years compared to billions of years. It's just a speck of chalk.
Yeah, so that tells you how wrong your belief is. It is equally as wrong as thinking the earth is flat.
Up there. So let's zoom in on it. Roughly 6,000 years ago, God created everything in 6 days. And then roughly 4,400 years ago, there was a flood. And that's where we get the...
What?
The fossils and the layers of rock. And then 2,000 years ago, Jesus came. Anybody know what BC stands for? Before Christ. You know what they're saying now? BCE, before Common Era. And I've seen it in the books, and just this year, I actually saw it in real life. It's up at the Kensington Park and by the Runestone. They had a timeline, and they used CE and BCE. So they're using people's tax dollars to get rid of Jesus Christ. Okay, and then today, Jesus...
Yeah, which is literally consistent with the First Amendment.
This is going to be coming back. That's what the biblical time frame is. So when did people get on the scene? If evolution is true, it's way at the end of this creation. And if the Bible is true, it's right at the beginning. God made it right on day 6 was Adam.
Yeah, so let's look for the evidence. Yours has none. Ours has Brazilians of lines of evidence.
And Eve. And people ask me, well, which one do I believe? And it's like, well, I'm going to agree with Jesus. Because in Mark 10, not millions of years after creation, not millions of years of evolution, at the very beginning. So if we're a Christian, we should use Jesus as our example. And he's saying, hey, people...
Dude, I don't know what the hell I did, but I pushed
Jesus. Because in Mark 10:6, Jesus says, but from the beginning of the creation. So Jesus is a creationist. Not only is he a creationist, he's a young earth creationist. He says, but from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. Not millions of years after creation, not millions of years of evolution, at the very beginning.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that the very beginning was thousands of years ago either.
So if we're a Christian, we should use Jesus as our example. And he's saying, hey, the people that didn't evolve, it was right at the beginning. And that's actually one of the problems we have in Christianity. There's a lot of Christian colleges and seminaries that are teaching some form of evolution, which is basically saying God didn't do what he said, or he didn't mean what he said. And Baylor, BYU, Notre Dame, they're all doing it. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's for accreditation or what. But let's take a look at two frameworks.
Because it's scientifically known.
What's the biblical framework for these subjects? Okay, the Bible says in the beginning,
none.
God created the heaven and the earth.
Which is false. Well, I wouldn't even say that. It's possible that God created the universe. There's just no evidence of it.
He made the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. That's the sun and the moon. And then it says he made the stars also. So God created all those. You see that? All those dots there? Those are stars in our galaxy. When you look through the Hubble Deep Field image or the James Webb Space Telescope image, you get just as many dots, but they're galaxies. There's an incredible amount of stars out there. Okay, so it was all created all at once. That's the framework.
I like how he's giving us evidence.
Biology. Chapter 1, it says everything produces after their kind, after his kind. Says that about 10 times. And that's a biological statement.
They have no idea what a kind is. We know that this would be violated just by looking at bacteria. Plant hybridization, you could argue it violates this thing about kinds as well. So this is the kinds thing. There's absolutely nothing. It doesn't stand on a single thing whatsoever. And they'll always modify the argument to make it work, to justify the belief that they have in the first place. It's not informed by evidence. It's literally just a mantra.
Dogs produce dogs, cats produce cats, horses produce horses.
Which is consistent with the theory of evolution.
And there's variations within a kind, but there's limits to that. And
what are the limits? None of them know what they are. They say that the limits exist in the sense that they're debunking the idea of Pokemon happening, but not in the sense of the way evolution is actually said to have occurred, which is descent with modification and gradual changes over time.
And it also said the seed is in itself. You know, what came first, the acorn or the oak tree? You know, it's like the chicken and the egg thing. And I didn't know how to answer that till I was 32. And then I heard somebody say, you know what, God said he made the birds, not the eggs. So so it's the chicken that came first.
I like how he's giving us evidence.
And then just last year I heard, I think it was Dr. Galuza, he said, you know, God made the chicken with the eggs inside of it. And then the eggs came out later. And that's and there you go. Okay, and how about dinosaurs? What's the biblical perspective of dinosaurs? Well, they're land animals. They were made on day 6. And then during the flood, 2 of every kind of those dinosaurs got on the ark. So they were young. And then they got off the ark and people...
Where does it say that they were young?
Called them dragons and killed them. And that's why there's legends of
Jesus fucking Christ. The way these people unironically believe in the Loch Ness Monster and dragons is so incredibly funny.
Legends of dragons all over the world. It bothered Carl Sagan so much that how could these people describe the same animal when they're separated by time and distance? And
they don't describe the same animal. They just, the dragon myths all over the world are wildly different. Their appearance, their behavior, what they do is wildly different everywhere. If there have been countless imagined fictional characters that have been imagined by people all over the world, and the idea that there's the vaguest sense of overlap between at least one of them when there are like dozens, if not hundreds, in every culture to pick from is not in any way surprising. I don't know if he's going to talk about this idea that the dragon was this sort of, I've heard this before. The dragon is this kind of like archetypal ingrained fear that humans have because like reptiles and large birds of prey and like whatever a dragon is a hybrid of. Well, historically humans have like been prey to those kinds of animals. So there's this like universal archetype that we fear or whatever. And that's what the dragon is. A sort of interesting comparison we can make to that is laboratory mice that have been bred in captivity their whole lives, and the only animals they've ever seen are other mice and human beings. They're still afraid of the scent of cat urine and or maybe it's snake, or maybe it's both, I'm not sure. But I've read that if you put the urine of either a snake or I think it's a snake actually, now that I think about it. But if you put that into their enclosure, they run away from it. They'll like cower to the far corner. So it's almost like a biological imprinting of fear of something, which is evolutionarily advantageous in a potential sort of sense.
He wrote Dragons of Eden, and he admitted that our memories are passed on in our DNA, and that's been debunked. Okay, geology. The Bible says there's a worldwide flood, and that's where we get our layers of sedimentary rock. That's where we get our fossils, and that's why we have legends all over the world also of a big flood.
I like how he's giving us evidence.
And then anthropology.
Fucking the way he just glozed over the entire history or the entire scope of the field of astronomy and the entire scope of the field of geology by saying, the book says, and then moves on. This is such an unserious human being. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm sending a text real quick. Okay. Sorry, everybody. We're back.
Okay, the study of man. Where did man come from? That's Genesis chapter 11, the Tower of Babel, where God confounded their languages and scattered them around the earth. So then you got these isolated people groups. And then
this is just so incredibly ridiculous. The equivalent of what he's doing is me saying this. Astronomy, well, the astronomy books tell us why astronomy is the way it is. Anyway, moving on. Geology, well, the geology textbooks tell us why geology is the way it is. Anyways, moving on. Humans, oh, well, the biology textbooks tell us about the way humans are. All right, moving on. I just...
Then they get different dominant features. And I hate to say race, because and when I get a form and says, what race are you? I'll check other, and I'll put human. There's one race. We're all sons and daughters of Adam and Noah, all right? And they always try and divide us into skin colors. I like what was it, Benjamin Watson? He was the football player for the Patriots. And that's
the most racist people throughout all of history have always been Christians. All right, Luca's here, and Luca wanted to ask a question real quick. What's up? Luca, you're muted. Oh, I guess I can unmute you. Oh, you muted yourself. Are you there?
Sorry. Yes, I'm here.
All right. I saw your question, but go ahead and ask it for the audience anyways.
Well, my question was to ask about, I wanted to know where you got the argument of the God-killing penguin from.
I actually got it from a YouTube video. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, God defeating penguin doesn't show up anywhere. I don't remember what the YouTube video was, but it was just like it was just some guy responding to the presuppositionalist nonsense where he just said, well, the God defeating penguin necessarily must exist. And I don't even remember the details of how he laid it out, but that's where the concept of it came from. Again, I don't remember the details, so I do it my own way, where I just define it to be a necessary thing or whatever. But it's not exactly original. Well, it's not at all original. But I got it from just a YouTube video. That was all.
Okay. Well, that's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a great day. Bye.
Later. All right, back to the video.
Saints. And he said, and this was during the Ferguson riots, he said, this isn't a skin problem, it's a sin problem. You know, you've got people that abuse their authority, and they got people that don't respect authority. It says the answer to this is Jesus Christ. You know, and so in that.
What was his name? The president of the Confederacy. Why the hell can't I remember his name? Oh, Jesus, what the Jefferson Davis, yeah. Didn't he say that Justin gives this quote all the time, that it is biblical supremacy that is the authority by which we claim that Africans are subservient to and should serve as the servants of whites, right? So, I mean, whatever. And look, I don't go around and I don't think anybody should go around saying that that is official Christian doctrine or the Christian position, but it's not like Christianity is an antidote for any of that stuff. That's the point.
I agree with that. Okay, so that's the biblical framework. Okay, now if there's, and the other framework, the evolutionary framework with blind chance and random collisions of atoms, astronomy. Okay, there's a big bang where.
So, yeah, that's my shirt. I got this at the La Brea Tar Pits. No, it's literally just a coincidence. I just saw it and I picked it out, but that is funny.
That's the origin of space, time, and matter. Where did the matter come from? That violates laws of physics, and we'll get into that. And there,
a god, like literally everything a god does, because it's a magical being, violates the laws of physics. So if you don't accept a violation of the laws of physics, then you need to abandon your faith. Now, how did he set this up?
With blind chance and random collisions of atoms, astronomy. Okay, there was a big bang where that's the origin of space, time, and matter. Where did the matter come from? That violates laws of physics, and we'll get into that.
How do you ask a question and then not give the answer and then say that it's a contradiction? Like, what did that's so wild. He didn't even say, well, according to the atheist, it came from nowhere or nothing, but nothing can't produce anything. We don't believe that. So, man, I might actually just completely roast this guy when we have our discussion. I guess we'll see.
And their predictions are always wrong. You know, when the Hubble
No, literally, they are correct.
Deep field image was coming out, they thought they were going to be looking so far back into the past that they were going to see these infant galaxies forming. And Bob Enyart, the Bible teacher on the radio, says they're not going to see infant galaxies. You're going to see average everyday galaxies. And they were shocked when they found average everyday galaxies back then. But
they really, really weren't. I don't know what this guy. I don't know. Now, I don't know. There's the James Webb new images. I have a video where I went over this. Man, I don't remember what that video is called though. Oh geez, what is that video? I'll have to watch it to refresh on my homework, I guess. But oh shit, what the hell was that video? I talk about galaxies. Oh man, I'm not going to be able to remember what the heck it was. Was it a live stream that I did? I don't think so. Do 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 do. No, I don't think that's it. Well, that's definitely not it either. I'm pretty sure it was a video. But so anyways, in the more recent time, there's just been this, they've been peddling the idea that the James Webb found these mature galaxies with mature stars in them, and that like is inconsistent with the Big Bang. It's not, because it has to do with the way we model other galaxies, but we can only model the star composition in other galaxies based on our galaxy. And so it's always been very there's always been this huge question as to whether or not that's accurate or not. And the exact reasons are escaping me at the moment, so I'm going to have to go and find. Let me write this down so I don't forget that I need to do that. Let's see. I'm just going to open up a new document. Okay, there we go. I got it. Okay, back to the video.
Those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat it. And the same thing happened with the James Webb Space Telescope. This time with Jason Lyle. He says their predictions are wrong. We aren't going to find young galaxies. And when they're wrong, they're going to say that
yeah. So now he is talking about Webb instead of the whatever. You know, it's incredibly ironic and hilarious the way he's doing this, because according to, and I've laid this out before in opening statements that I've had on the Standing for Truth channel. I think I did it with both T-Rock and Kent Hovind. But according to the biblical model, the universe is 6,000 years old. Seeing farther than 6,000 light years is not acceptable under that working assumption. But they just flip it and say, well, or they just change it in real time. They shift the goalpost, but they shift it closer because they're doing it for themselves. They say, well, with God, everything is possible. So this statement that came out from these people in the 21st century, the idea that that's a biblical prediction is really just actually laughable. It's a prediction that they made by piggybacking on literally nothing but secular scientific data. And so, I mean, good for this particular person for getting it right. But again, I wish I could remember the details of the galaxy thing right now at the top of my head so I could give them to you. But it's not the W that they think it is.
Galaxies formed earlier than expected. And he was right on both counts. The Big Bang is a laughingstock. And Danny Faulkner says it's not a matter of if it falls apart, it's a matter of when it falls apart. Okay, that's astronomy. And then biology. Okay, their view of biology is 3 billion years ago.
Sorry, I'm going to write down a note. I got to think of the way I'm going to ask this guy questions. There, that's a really good question that I just thought of.
There was a single living cell that turned into all the
he said to himself,
plants and animals and people that we've ever seen. This evolutionary tree. Okay.
Yep, good thing there's evidence for it.
Okay, we don't find that in the fossil record. What we
don't find every single thing that's ever existed in the fossil record, but everything in the fossil record is consistent with evolution. Literally every single thing.
Find is an evolution is a creation orchard. You know, all these kinds are separate. There's no transitional anything.
Oh my God. I don't know what's going to happen when we have this debate, because I don't want to have an evolution debate, a cosmology debate, well, those would really be the only ones. Like, the debate is evolution true? Is the Big Bang Theory true? So I'm going to have to figure out, I don't know. I think I know how to do it, but I got to figure out how to discuss, defend those ideas without making it a debate about those things.
And then dinosaurs, where'd they come from? There's no transitionals for them, but they died out 65 million years.
That's just so incredibly false.
Ago. That's noteworthy. They died out, and
damn it, I did it again.
Millions of years ago, and we'll see if the evidence follows that. And then geology. Where they come from, there's no transitionals for them, but they died out 65 million years ago. That's noteworthy. They died out millions of years ago, and we'll see if the evidence follows that. And then
yeah, it does.
Geology. You know, the earth forms, and granite's never been molten. It's made of mica, hornblende, quartz, and something else, and they all have different densities. So if granite was ever molten, it would separate out into those different densities. So when they say that the earth was a hot molten blob, it's not. You know, granite won't allow that. And
what the fuck is he talking about?
Then they've got these plate tectonics that are moving.
What kind of statement was that?
Densities. So if granite was ever molten, You know, and the earth forms, and granite's never been molten. It's made of mica, hornblende, quartz, and something else, and they all have different densities.
Oh, I get what he's saying now. Okay, so oh, fucking A. So he's saying that because the minerals that make up granite are of different densities, then granite could never have been molten because it can't be composed of minerals with different densities because they would sort out. Is there hornblende in granite? Granite is feldspar, silica, and biotite. But a lot of like there are minerals. There are so freaking many minerals, but there are mineral families. So hornblende might just be in a family of minerals. Hornblende is a common dark-colored amphibole mineral. Well, what family is it part of? It's in the silicate family of minerals. I mean, there's no general problem with this. So what is the specific gravity of hornblende? Anywhere between 2.9 and 3.4. Specific gravity of silica. So, I mean, we're in the area, but I think hornblende is it's a type of silica, I guess. So then what about feldspar, which there are lots of different types? You're between 2.5 and 2.8. This was what? It's higher than that. But that's within the range for silica, right? 2.2 to 2.7. And then what did I say? Biotite, specific gravity of biotite, 2.7 to 3.3. Right. So it's not like there's one kind of granite. Also. So granite is a rock composed of 3 different minerals, but there are like when we say minerals, that's like saying birds. There's thousands of types of birds, right? So yeah, this is just very the granite in different places looks different because of the mineral composition and the environments and the the history behind how it was formed or whatever. There are lighter granites, there are darker granites. I could go on, but yeah, the idea that Earth could not have been molten because granite is composed of minerals with different densities. Oh, geez.
So if granite was ever molten, it would separate out into those different densities. So when they say that the Earth was a hot molten blob, it's not. Granite won't allow that. And then they've got these plate tectonics that are moving around, but there's this book up here, 20 Reasons to Question Plate Tectonics. It doesn't work. And T. Christian Smoot, I think his name was, he mapped the floor of the ocean. He says, that's plate tectonics can't work. Okay, and then how does subduction begin? How do you get one to go under the other one? I mean, there's a lot of problems, and yet it's...
What was that? The book was called 20 Reasons to Question Plate Tectonics book. Again, he's not giving any evidence. He's just saying what he thinks. So yeah, that's it. Amazon, Wikipedia. Nope, that's not going to be it. This is just going to be like to buy it, I'm pretty sure. Ellis Hughes. Who is Ellis Hughes? Geology. What the hell is that? What the fuck? Let's see. Does this person know anything at all? Barnes and Noble, maybe they'll have an author page or something like that. This book traces the blah blah blah. No, I want to know more about God damn it. I want to know more about the author. Do you have an author page? No, you do not. Does this have like a preview? Nope. Okay. Let's go back to Amazon. Ask PhD Tony. Yeah, he knows a lot. Like, bro, you can totally take my word for it. Ellis Hughes. What the fuck? What is going on with this Ellis Hughes person? Like, they just write smut, and then they also wrote something about plate tectonics. Oh, I don't know. I can't find anything for like an author page. So I don't know. We'll just go back to the video.
It's being taught as dogma. And so he's talking to that Smoot guy. He's talking to the graduate students and the college students because they are more open-minded to look at something different. And then anthropology. Yeah, anthropology. He got master races. Remember Hitler? The master race. He was going to get rid of the subhumans. And it all starts with Darwin. Darwin, I can't believe people celebrate Darwin Day. They obviously haven't read what he said, because in
What
Descent
a piece of shit.
of Man or Raven, Origin of Species, what's the whole title for that? By means of natural selection or preservation of favored races in this.
It was the 19th century. People used words differently. This book is about all life on the planet. He actually pretty much skips over human beings in it. Favored races literally just means species or subspecies. Like, it applies to giraffes and trees and everything else. What an absolute piece of shit. Because this is not him being incompetent. This is him lying. Because you can't actually be that stupid.
Struggle for life. He was a racist. And then if you read...
No, that's true. He was, yeah.
Descent of Man, this is what he writes. At some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races...
Yeah, he said that this will happen, not that it should happen. The ironic thing is Brian worships, or maybe not necessarily worships, but venerates a Bronze Age Hitler, because Moses is the exact same thing. Oh, invaded a land he wasn't from, committed mass genocides in order to attempt to set up an ethno-state. The only difference is that Moses is worse because he was successful.
Of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace the savage races. And I've seen a chart where it's got the Caucasian people, the white people, they evolved more than the black people. And then there was the apes. And that's what that was in Scope's monkey trial textbook. And so anyhow, he's a sexist and he's a racist. And anybody who celebrates Darwin Day doesn't know science. You know, Darwinian stuff has fallen apart. It does not work. They should celebrate Newton Day. Isaac Newton. Now, there's somebody to celebrate. Okay, so we looked at the two histories. Let's define the terms. Okay, we need...
Like... I could literally argue that, no, Isaac Newton was wrong. The atheist Albert Einstein proved that Newton was wrong. Which is true, but not true. Because if we just look at things on a certain level of analysis, then classical mechanics still holds up. If we try to dive deeper, it doesn't. Now, Darwin's idea of natural selection is true in the sense that it holds up at certain levels of analysis, but we've learned more and added to it. And so when you ask different types of questions, it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily 100% adequate. Anyways.
To make sure when we're in this discussion that we're talking about the meaning of the same word, and let's define science. I was at St. Cloud State, I was promoting this talk, and I'm at the kiosk, and that poster's hanging above me, and a student walks by and crinkles up his forehead and says, "What do you mean?" And I asked, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?"
Newton was a confirmed racist. What is this guy talking about? You know, Newton was actually in charge of doling out capital punishment. He ended up with this really weird job in the British government. And there's some fucked up stuff that he did. What were some messed up things Newton did as a prosecutor? I can't remember exactly. He was the warden of the Royal Mint. He took role as prosecutor. Oh, that's hilarious. he would go undercover and interrogate people in taverns. But he aggressively pursued capital punishment. Wow, damn. So he doled out capital punishment for people. He psychologically pressured people into confessions, which is wrong. His biggest rival, William Chaloner, was executed after a Newton-led takedown, who was a counterfeiter and a con artist, right? Newton spent months gathering evidence, digging into Chaloner's pet. That's a weird last name. Interesting. I don't remember the specific details, but I read something about the way he went about doing that was really messed up. But yeah, there we go.
He said, well, how can you have evolution versus science when evolution is science? And we need to define the terms here. And so I asked him, well, what do you mean by science? And he said, well, like experiments, like in a lab. And I said, oh, the type of science that's observable, testable, repeatable, falsifiable, the scientific method type of science? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, evolution's none of that. He said, well, sure it is. And I said, okay, name
fucking moron.
an experiment that proves evolution.
Literally any biological experiment, because allele frequencies change over time. So any experiment that looks at DNA in a laboratory setting will confirm that evolution happens.
And he said, well, there's lots of things.
Also, looking at this mantra they have that science is only when you do this is completely false. Because the historical record does have, like, evolution could have been falsified by the historical record, but it's been confirmed countless times. There's not a single thing we've ever found that disconfirms the theory of evolution. And then also, like, I use this one all the time, but genetics could have disproven evolution, and you wouldn't. I wouldn't necessarily say that genetics proved evolution, but it confirmed everything we thought about evolution. Meaning that, there should be hierarchical genetic similarities or relatedness within family trees, or, well, not family trees, but phylogenetic brackets or whatever.
And I said, well, just give me your best thing. What's your best evidence for evolution? And his eyes go to the ceiling for about 5 or 10 seconds, and he said, geology. And I asked him, well, what about geology? And he says, the layers of rock. And I said, the geologic column? And he said, yeah. And I said, you got to be kidding.
He helped found the South Sea Company. They trafficked black people. Newton gave those people money, knowingly, since it was well known at the time. That's crazy. Where's this guy's Nobel Prize? Yeah, he'll have some sort of cope answer for that. What about the South Sea Company? That's what it was called. Man, ChatGPT it changed the way it gives responses, and they're incredibly stupid. Like, the language is like a high schooler. All right. I'll look into it later.
You believe that layers of sedimentary rock laid down by water all over the world.
Am I on 4.5? I am on, what am I on now? I got rid of my subscription for it, trying to save a little bit of money. So it doesn't say what version I'm using. I guess I'm just using whatever the base model is, which is 3.5 or something at this time. I don't know.
The world proves that we came from a rock. And he said, I said, that could just as easily point to a flood, a worldwide flood in the days of Noah.
It could. That's a claim, but there's zero evidence of it.
But why did I say it proves that we came from a rock? Because this is their general ed textbook, St. Cloud State. This is a page from it. They're trying to explain how life began. And it said, to the best of our knowledge, it should say to the best of our atheistic knowledge. And you go down there and it says that it rained on the rock for millions of years. So they believe that we came from rock.
You literally believe that. You believe that that the first person was created from crushed up wet rocks.
And I don't know about you, but I don't have enough faith to believe that one. But how did this?
No, you do, because that literally is what you believe.
Happen? Well, the next paragraph explains it. Somehow, despite the harsh environment, living organisms appeared. That's not science. That's not science. And so I'm talking to the student at the kiosk. And he said, well, what makes the most sense? And I said, exactly. That you were created by God, or that hydrogen and helium turn into people. Because that's what the Big Bang says. I mean, supposedly the Big Bang made hydrogen, helium, and a little bit of lithium. And I don't know, I don't have enough faith to believe hydrogen and helium turn into people. But I'm talking to that student, and at the very end, he says, you know what, I'm going to...
Maybe I'll just invent my own religion during this debate. I'll say, okay, well, since that's what makes sense, then and it won't be Spankyism, I'll just say, you know what, I now believe in a religion called Skibbity Toilet. And according to Skibbity Toilet, the magical leprechaun, who is all powerful and can do all things, created humans. And I'll just say 10,000 years ago instead of 6,000 years ago. And all the evidence points to the Skibbity Toilet leprechaun there.
Think about this.
Now, what would be the point? Because he would think that that idea is stupid. Because he thinks that magic is a stupid explanation, except that's unironically what he believes in.
And that's a hallelujah breakdown moment when an evolutionist is going to think, because you got to see both sides of an issue if you're going to think. And up until this point, all he's seeing is what's in class, and that's only half the story. Okay, and so if he's intellectually honest, he's going to become a creationist like Gary Parker and Dean Kenyon and Spike Pizarris, and the list goes on, and even John Sanford, the inventor of the gene gun. The science led him to the creator. It's like, there's no way this got together by chance. And then evolution. That's a real slippery word. And this is one of those logical fallacies called equivocation. It's bait and switch. They'll give you a meaning, and then they'll change the meaning halfway through the argument or halfway through the textbook. They'll say, here, boys and girls, you got big dogs and little dogs. See, that's evolution. And because of that's true, man came from molecules. And it's like, wait a minute, time out. Objection. You just changed the meaning. The top one is variation within a kind, and creationists that go along with that. Yeah, you get big dogs and little dogs. There's variation with the kind, but there's limits to the kind. And then that second part.
So a plant. Let's check this out real quick first. Thank you, Lease 10. Creationists forget that observational experiments are you observe a phenomenon, make a future novel prediction. This future novel perfections, I assume that means predictions, come true. Bang, great evidence. Yeah, I mean, they pretend that experimental science is the only science, and this just is very stupid.
Part is no, that's molecules to man. That's whenever I'm talking about evolution, I try to clarify it. Molecules to man evolution, fish to.
Okay, so that can be tested. We can look for evidence that would confirm or falsify it. So, for example, a plant exists. Now, I'm not talking about where did the plants come from, but do we go from molecules to organisms? Okay, so this may seem a little bit unfair, but we start with an organism, but then we're going to talk about what happens in the future. A plant exists. What does the plant do? Does it take in non-living carbon dioxide and water from the atmosphere and use energy to transform it into tissue? Yes. Okay, so we got molecules forming organisms. Then other organisms eat the plants or eat animals that eat plants, and by a different process, but a similar process in the same sort of way, chemically incorporate molecules into tissue. So we know that molecules to organisms is a thing that actually happens. That is how organisms operate. So why on earth do we require magic to be the explanation for where they come from when the mode of operation is completely absent of any magic? There's no logical leap that you can make there. Whereas the logical leap that the origin of a process would be reflective of its operation is I mean, that is not much of a logical leap at all. It's logically consistent. The one that introduces magic, an unknown quantity, is a completely stupid and silly logical leap.
Fisherman.
I actually like that. I'm going to write that down real quick. And again, literally just replace, like, take his exact same argument. I don't know how life got started on this planet. Therefore, therefore God. I don't know how life started on this planet. Therefore, a magical leprechaun. I'm going to write that down, actually. I don't know what happened. Therefore, a magical leprechaun. Okay, there we go. So I don't know how it happened. Therefore, a magical leprechaun. I don't know how it happened. Therefore, God. Explain to me how one of these is better or worse than the other.
You know, amoeba to elephant, bacteria to blue whale evolution, the whole spectrum. That's what I'm talking about. And creation science evangelism, they had this brochure out there. We'll give you $250,000 if you can give us any empirical evidence for evolution. But nobody ever saw that brochure, or not many, so they put it on a billboard between the St. Louis Zoo and the St. Louis Science Center. Wanted real scientific proof for evolution, $250,000. And they got calls. And the guy said, hey, I got resistant soybeans. And he said, well, what did you start with? And he said, soybeans. And he said, what do you got? He said, soybeans. He said, that's not evolution. That's just variation within a kind. If you start with soybeans and end up with a rhinoceros, oh, okay, now let's talk. I'll pay to see that. But that doesn't happen. We've taken a look at the two histories. We've defined some terms. Now let's take a look at some laws of physics. And again, this goes back to our view of history. One view acknowledges a creator. The other view doesn't. So all there is blind chance and random collisions of atoms.
I already went over this at the very beginning, so I'm not going to say it again.
Okay, now which one of these breaks laws of physics?
Yeah, Aaron, I mean, that would be the response. Well, I have a book that says so. And I was like, okay, I have a book that says so. There. And I say, well, is your book the best-selling book of all time? And I'm like, okay, was Christianity false when there was only one Christian in the world? No, so that has nothing to do with whether or not it's true. So there, my book is better.
I would say that I would submit that the one that breaks laws of physics should be discarded. Because when you break laws of physics, that's a miracle.
God violate. Wait, what?
And you shouldn't do science based on miracles.
He didn't just unironically say, if you have to posit a miracle, it's not science, and you shouldn't base science based on miracles. He didn't just say that, did he? Because isn't the title of this Creation Science 101? Holy fucking shit. That's definitely going in my opening statement. So when did he say that? He said that at the 1830. Holy fucking shit. That's actually unbelievable. This is such an unserious human being. Let's rewind and listen to that again because of how fucking horrible that was. Sorry for the typos. I meant to say observational experiments are experiments, and yes, not perfection's predictions. Oh, no, I got you. I mean, it was pretty easy to understand. Oh. Anyways, let's listen to that again.
These breaks laws of physics. I would say that I would submit that the one that breaks laws of physics should be discarded. Just my, because when you break laws of physics, that's a miracle.
Oh my God. The one that breaks the laws of physics should be discarded. That's what he actually said. Should we discard God because God violates the laws of physics? Actually, you have to ask a leading question to that. Did God use the laws of physics to create the universe? There we go. I don't need to do anything else.
And you shouldn't
That really should be enough.
do science based on miracles. Okay, so these are questions you can ask in class. What caused the universe?
We don't know.
The universe is pretty big.
We don't know if it has a cause.
And that brings us to the law of causality, the law of cause and effect. Everything that had a beginning had a cause. And the universe had a beginning. It's not eternal, or those stars would be all burned up. So the universe had a beginning.
False.
So it had a cause. And whatever cause, and the law goes like this.
Eternal doesn't mean that the stars have existed for an infinite amount of time going backwards. It means that there never was a time when it can mean that there never was a time when they didn't exist.
And everything had a beginning, and everything had a cause, and the effects, or some of the effects of that cause, can never be greater than the cause. So my question is, what caused the universe? Whatever caused it has to be bigger than the universe. And that's where you get a supernatural creator that made a natural creation. If you allow for that, you don't break any laws of physics.
Chat, what is it doing? Chat, somebody tell me what it's doing. Could one of you in the chat please tell me what it's doing? Because I'm finna crash the fuck out right now. We're not moving on until somebody in the chat tells me what it's doing. Valid. Equally valid. Equally valid. Equally valid. Equally valid.
But if you reject that, then you break laws of physics all the time. A supernatural creator, and they'll say, well, what caused God? Well, like I said, whatever had a beginning had a cause. God didn't have a cause, a beginning. He's just been eternal. Okay, so if we change the definition of science to allow for a supernatural creator, everything fits. But if we...
Yes, because if you allow for magic, then literally any possible explanation suddenly becomes tenable, which means you can't delineate, or you can't discriminate, maybe would be a better word. You can't discriminate between ideas in any way whatsoever.
We say that you can only use natural explanations to explain a natural universe. Well, now let's start breaking laws of physics. Okay, where'd the matter come from? And this was during that Bill Nye, Ken Ham debate. That was a question for Bill Nye. Where'd the particles for the Big Bang come from? And he said, don't know, it's a mystery. That's why we do science. And then Ken Ham said, well, Bill, there is a book that tells us where matter came from. And then the very next question to to Bill Nye was, how did consciousness come from matter? Don't know, it's a mystery. That's why we do science. And then Ken Ham, Bill, there is a book that tells us how consciousness came from matter.
I like how he's giving evidence.
But let's just take a look at this evolutionary formula, the Big Bang. Nothing plus nothing equals what? And you could say people, but we're going to do step by step, or nothing plus nothing equals everything. But they'll say nothing plus time, whatever. Well, actually, no, there was no time back then. This is the beginning of time, too. Time.
God literally has the exact same properties of nothing. Exists nowhere, no when, and for no amount of time.
Time, space, and matter. They call it a singularity. Nothing plus nothing equals a Big Bang, an explosion, Big Bang, which violates the first law of thermodynamics. You cannot make matter from nothing. All right? And then,
yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to just clip this guy for my opening statement and then just say how much of a fucking idiot he is, rather than, but on top of going over how we know things. Just such an incredibly unserious person.
Then this matter gets more organized as time goes by. It turns into planets and stars and people, which violates the second law of thermodynamics. Things fall apart over time. Okay, and then how do stars form?
Do people die? Yes. So there's no violation of the laws of physics insofar as the fact that humans exist or any biological organism exists.
Okay, in the textbooks, it says it's the nebula theory. The dust cloud collapses to form a star, which violates Boyle's law, because as the volume decreases, the pressure increases.
Wait, what the fuck?
Okay, in the textbooks, it says it's the nebula theory. The dust cloud collapses to form a star, which violates Boyle's law, because as the volume decreases, the pressure increases. And when Gary Parker was in grad school, they're explaining this theory to him, and he asks him, well, how does that work? When air pressure is 60 to 100,000 times stronger than gravity, how is it going to collapse? And the professor said, well, maybe we should call it the nebulous theory instead of nebula. Nebulous meaning hard to understand. Okay, and then how do planets?
Chat, I don't even know what his argument there was. He's literally arguing that stars can't exist.
Goes by, turns into planets and stars and people, which violates the second law of thermodynamics. Things fall apart over time. Okay, and then how do stars form? Okay, in the textbooks, it says it's the nebula theory. The dust cloud collapses to form a star, which violates Boyle's law. Because
I can't make sense of this. It's too nonsensical. I literally have no fucking clue what he's trying to say.
Because as the volume decreases, the pressure increases.
I mean, I know what Boyle's law is, but how is this? I mean, he's just not taking into account the fact that gravity exists. Hold on, I have to think for a second.
A star, which violates Boyle's law.
Okay, yeah, no, that's not how. Okay, yeah. So the problem, okay, that's what I thought. So the problem is because that only works if the temperature stays the same, right? If you decrease the volume, the pressure the thing with the ideal gas laws is that you have to keep one thing constant. As you change this parameter changes if the third parameter remains constant. So if you decrease the volume of gas, its pressure goes up as long as the temperature remains the same. Well, but the temperature actually gets higher, so that would just create more pressure. Anyways, the process of star formation is non-isothermal, which means Boyle's law doesn't apply in this way. Gravity pulls gas inward. The pressure and temperature both rise, but that doesn't stop the collapse because gravity can keep winning until other forces push back hard enough. This is why we use hydrostatic equilibrium and Jean's instability to describe whether a gas cloud will collapse, not Boyle's law. Okay. When did he say this? 21-minute mark. Okay. Man, there's a lot of this video to go. Does he talk during the entire? I'm at 21:17. Oh, geez. He really is just lecturing this entire time? What? Moon landing?
4 theories out there and none of them work. And notice that big pan at that big dish at the bottom of that leg, that space capsule leg. That's there because they thought there was going to be billions of years of space dust there because the moon's supposed to be there billions.
Okay, so I figured that was probably what it is. He thinks we went to the moon. He just thinks that the moon somehow violates old Earth. I've heard that talking point a million times before. Oh, fucking A. An essay addressing the supposed paradox of star formation. Yeah. Does he think the Earth is flat? No, but he talks like one. Yeah, I don't know. The problem with all of his positions, it seems to me, is that they almost make intuitive sense at an 7th or 8th grade comprehension level, but if you go beyond that, you get the explanation for why it falls apart, but they're either incapable or unwilling to look that far.
Second part is
that's hilarious. I'm writing that down too. Man, I'm getting some quotable moments. I'm funny. The worst part, this clown is infecting children. Yeah, there were a lot of there was the laughter of children in the background earlier.
No, that's molecules to man. That's whenever I'm talking about evolution, I try to clarify it. Molecules to man evolution, fish to fisherman, amoeba to elephant, bacteria.
Dude, shit. We've been doing this for an hour and a half, and I'm not even a third of the way through the video. Oh, man. Just came from the Darth Poop Barthologist video. He's such... No, he's not dishonest. He's just very no, wait. Yeah, he is dishonest because he refused during that whole thing. He's like, I'm not answering any questions. I didn't come here to answer any questions. So yeah, there is actually a ton of intellectual dishonesty. The thing about Barth is he's 5'7", but he's from New York, right? So he needs to be a tough guy, but he's not a tough guy because he's 5'7". So he has to act like a punk ass bitch like that all the time to inflate his ego. He's like a cobra, when they inflate their, and he uses a cobra as his thumbnail or PFP. Or whatever. Maybe that's why he does it. So he has to put on this tough guy mantra to just survive in the world. Meanwhile, he's not a tough guy and he's a loser. He had to pawn his own mother's microwave to buy the fake gold chain from the street vendor that he wears as he walks around New York pretending to be a tough guy. It's just really unfortunate for Barth.
Bacteria to blue whale evolution.
I also have to eat. I haven't eaten anything. Okay. I'm going to eat on camera and there's nothing any of you can do to stop me. Cause I have other shit that I need to do tomorrow and the next day. So I don't know if I could break this debate prep into 2 days and I still might have to, but I'll be right back. W ASMR stream. No, I'm going to mute myself while I'm taking bites. Peterson doesn't exist. Well, the last 10 seconds kind of sort of proved that. Okay. So here we go.
Full spectrum. That's what I'm talking about. And Creation Science Evangelism, they had this brochure out there. We'll give you $250,000 if you can give us any empirical evidence for evolution. But nobody ever saw that brochure, or not many, so they put it on a billboard between the St. Louis Zoo and the St. Louis Science Center. Wanted real scientific proof for evolution, $250,000. And they got calls. And the guy said, hey, I got resistant soybeans. And he said, well, what did you start with? And he said, soybeans. And they said, what do you got? He said, soybeans. He said, that's not evolution. That's just variation within a kind. If you start with soybeans and end up with a rhinoceros, okay, now let's talk. I'll pay to see that. But that doesn't happen. We've taken a look at the two histories. We've defined some terms. Now let's take a look at some laws of physics. And again, this goes back to our view of history. One view acknowledges a creator, the other view doesn't. So all there is blind chance and random collisions of atoms. Okay, now which one of these breaks laws of physics? I would say that I would submit that the one that breaks laws of physics should be discarded. Because when you break laws of physics, that's a miracle. Well, how does that work? When air...
I forgot I was muted. I went backwards too far, so we were hearing stuff that we've already heard before.
Pressure is 60 to 100,000 times stronger than gravity. How is it going to collapse? And the professor said, well, maybe we should call it the nebulous theory instead of nebula. Nebulous meaning hard to understand. Okay, and then how do planets form? You know, the theory goes like this. You got the gas that turns to dust, turns to pebbles, turns to rocks, turns to boulders, turns to these really big ones called planetesimals, turns into planets. Okay, that's the theory, but it falls apart at about the boulder stage, because when they slam into each other, they fall apart. They break apart. They don't stick together. I mean, you ever played pool? Do those balls stick together? No, they break apart. And we can see this in real life. Those rings of Saturn are not turning into moons. They're falling apart.
What the fuck was it? I just watched something on this. Oh shit. What was it? I think it was an Action Lab. Was it an Action Lab video where he talked about this? There's this. It's not the Roach limit. It's something different than that. I wish Blitz was here. He could help out with this. But there's this. There's an extent. The gravitational field of a planet is sufficiently strong at a certain distance where the particles don't. The mutual gravitation between them doesn't really allow them to collect because they're moving too fast. The collisions are too energetic. But beyond that, it does. So I can't remember where I heard that from. Let me see if I can find it in my watch history. YouTube, moon. Couldn't have been that. I want to say it was an Action Lab video. It had a really weird graphic in the video. It wasn't this, was it? Nope. Damn it. None of you have seen this video that I'm talking about. I gave the worst description ever. Yeah, there is one of Saturn's moons is inside of its rings. It might just be temporary. Damn it. What was it that I watched that discussed this? No, it wasn't that. For crying out loud. This is going to bug the shit out of me.
They break apart. They don't stick together. I mean, you ever played pool? Do those balls stick together? No, they break apart. And we can see this in real life. Those rings of Saturn are not turning into moons. They're falling apart. That asteroid belt is not turning into planets. So that's just a belief system. Okay, and then how did life begin?
The asteroids in the asteroid belt, on average, are about as far away from each other as Earth is from Mars.
And I ask this question all the time when I'm at campus. If I meet an atheist, I said, okay, let's play in your ballpark. If there's no God, how did life begin? There's life all over the planet. How did it start? Okay, and here's the formula. And I had to adjust it lately. It used to be rocks plus time plus water equals life. But then I found out that
that's literally what you believe.
Actually, water is a hindrance to life. Water breaks apart the molecules faster than they could get put together. So it's a real conundrum. You need water for life, but you can't start water in life. That's a real, and that Bob Enyart had that question asked that question to a really big over in Germany, and they had to admit that he says that nobody's talking about it, but they had to admit it that yeah, water's a problem for starting life. But then you get the simple living cell, and that violates the law of biogenesis. Life only comes from life. Okay, and then, but how do you get people to believe all this stuff in the textbooks? Well, they use these magic words or fuzzy words. Some people call them fuzzy words. And we saw one of them before. Somehow, despite the harsh environment, living organisms appeared. Somehow, I met a biologist who taught at a college, and he said he always had his students.
How did God do it? Somehow. There's no explanation. There's no explanatory value in the God hypothesis whatsoever. I think we're going to have to include that. 2335. Yeah, maybe during cross-examination, I'll just ask him over and over again, how did this happen? And then when he tells me God did it, I'll say, no, I didn't ask what, I asked how.
Students have a journal and write down fuzzy words. So then they would know when they're being taught science and when they'd know when they're being taught belief systems about the past. And science is observation and testing. Somehow is not observation and testing. And then you go through that chapter in this book, and those fuzzy words could just come falling off like water off of Niagara Falls. You got, as best as we can surmise, the story of origins apparently arose. Some scientists speculate, probably originated, probably diverged. And this one, our best guess. Okay, that's not science. But they really want an answer, natural answer for the origin of life. They had $1 million on the table. You want to make $1 million? Just give us some scientific proof for the natural process of the origin of life. $1 million was on the table for 13 years and nobody could do it. So they took
chemistry. There, I win. Give me my $1 million.
Took it off the table. It's a dead end in science, but they really, really, really want this answer. So now they've upped it to $10 million. You want to make $10 million? All you have to do is solve the largest mystery in history, how genetic code got inside cells and how cells intentionally self-organize, communicate, and then purposely adapt. Go ahead, knock yourself out. You know, if I was a betting man, I'd bet my house you're not going to be able to do it. But I'm not a betting man, so I'm just going to make a prediction here. In 2024, you're not going to be able to, nobody's going to get that money by 2034, 54, 64. I would say in 100 years, there's nobody's going to be able to do it, because that is so incredibly complex. We're actually farther from explaining the origin of life than in the Miller-Urey experiment in the 50s, because we know so much more. It's so complicated. Okay, and then 1 cell plus time equals people. Here we go. You know, you see, boys and girls, you started as an amoeba, then one of your grandpas was a frog, and then now he turns into a prince. Okay, see, now if you kiss a frog and it turns into a prince quickly, they call it a fairy tale. But if the frog turns into a prince slowly, now we're talking modern science. That is a belief system about the past. All right, and now, and more, this is fuzzy words too, millions of years. When I teach VBS and the kids, I'll say, here's your baloney detector. This should go off when you're being taught something that's not true. And there's a clue for it. It's millions of years and billions of years. If you ever hear that, your baloney detector should go off, and we test that. And actually, I was pretty excited. You know, millions of years, billions of years. I watch thehighwire.com every week. You know, I feel you need to get all the information to make informed decisions, and we're not getting it from our government and media. And so, but when Del Bigtree talks about people have been here for millions of years, it always kind of sits wrong with me. And so I went up to the Global Health Freedom Summit up in Alexandria two years ago, and I actually got to meet Del. And this year he wasn't there, but Mickey Willis was, one of his really good friends who directs us. Know how long we've been here. You know, and so I was so excited about that. And then I watched the Highwire today, and they're talking about the climate change, and somebody was talking about millions of years again. So I don't know, maybe it's just slowly, but I encourage people to throw your pebbles in the pond. You know, share pebbles.
Maybe along a mountain. Yeah. How could that have happened over vast amounts of time?
And that's the best one I've ever seen. And so, yeah, they should have called it evidence for the flood or answers to the flood because he's really good at doing that. And that's why we're having Mike Snavely Day down in the cities. He's going to be an hour away. EBCSA photos. And who's he? He discovered bone cells in a triceratops horn when he was working at the University of California. I think it was Northfield, and he was running their huge spectron analysis lab microscope.
Maybe he's done giving the case now. I guess we'll see. I'm writing down. I thought of something for the debate, so I need to write it down. So I might be silent here for a minute.
And he found these bone cells, and he got it published in Acta Histochemica. And nobody had ever done what he did. And what happened to him? They fired him. Yeah, they fired him. They didn't like what he found. And there's books over here. There's 3 volumes of people that have been censored or fired or lose grant money or lose their position because they find something that goes against evolution or they question it. And we'll get back to that later. But here's an article from the National or Smithsonian magazine talking about the blood cells.
Holy shit, dude. Scrapula is a prophet. Like, literally, it was the very next thing he did.
Cells, the findings amazed colleagues who had, oh, and by the way, those nerves, he's finding nerves in those cells too, in blind dinosaurs. Those are dinosaur nerves. And I helped him at a workshop one time, and it's just amazing. When you zoom in on those nerves, it just becomes more and more beautiful. It's just incredible what God.
I highly doubt that these are the nerves. We have found the sediment in a lot of Chinese fossils is so finely grained that when you zoom in with like scanning electron microscopes, you can actually see cellular details, but it's just impressions in the matrix or substrate, whatever we want to call it itself.
God's made. See, when you zoom in on something man-made, it becomes more and more imperfected, but that was just beautiful. And it goes on. The findings amazed colleagues who had never imagined that even a trace of still soft dinosaur tissue could survive.
Cool beans. Jeez.
After all, as any textbook will tell you, when an animal dies, soft tissues such as blood vessels, muscle, and skin decay and disappear over time, while hard tissues like bone may gradually acquire minerals from the environment and become fossils.
So, soft tissue, partial fragmentary remains of soft tissue can't last for millions of years. How do we know this? Like, that's his claim. How is this known? Do you have any experiments or observational studies that you've done that confirm this? No.
And here's a fossil at the ICR in Texas. And they got this fossil. It's a fossil jellyfish. It doesn't have any hard material. And it's a fossil. Yeah, it's something very, very unique happened for that. And they got it specifically because Darwin said it couldn't happen.
What a fucking dipshit. Absolutely fucking moron. So at 32:48, oh, Jesus Christ. What an absolute moron. So he starts off by shows discoveries of soft tissue. Says that's impossible over millions of years. I can't believe he did that. He's either a liar or so unbelievably stupid for that one. So he shows discoveries of soft tissue, says that's impossible over millions of years, then shows a jellyfish fossil. Couching it as if it's a soft tissue remnant. Either lying or unbelievably incompetent. That might be the worst one yet, what he just did there.
So it's a fossil jellyfish. It doesn't have any hard material, and it's a fossil. Yeah, it's something very, very unique happened for that. And they got it specifically because Darwin said it couldn't happen. But let's go along. Oh, and by the way, a fossil, how does a fossil form?
Darwin never said that.
Is that dead deer on the side of the road going to turn into a fossil? No, it's going to get scavenged and decomposed. The only way a fossil forms is if it gets buried rapidly. And therefore, any layers that have fossils in it were laid down rapidly. That's the whole geologic column. It's not millions of years. It was laid down rapidly. Okay, and then that article goes on to say if particles of that one dinosaur were able to hang around for 65 million years, maybe the textbooks were wrong about the fossilization. Well, yeah, they're wrong about that, but they're also wrong about the 65 million years. Maybe they're wrong about that. They never questioned the age of the dinosaur. And how do they determine the age? Well, it's found in that layer. And everyone knows that layer is 65 million years old. Well, how do you know that layer is 65 million years old? Well, it's got dinosaurs. And everyone knows that dinosaurs went out 65 million years. And yeah, they don't want to carbon date those bones. That's another talk. But this is from ICR. The fossils still say no, the Cambrian explosion. And it says the presence of actual undecayed tissue in fossils found at virtually every level of the geologic column completely undermines evolution's deep time paradigm.
What the fuck?
Found at virtually every level of the geologic column completely undermines evolution's deep time paradigm. So those layers are supposed to be laid down over millions of years, and they're still finding undecayed tissue there, and it can't last millions of years. Those layers were laid down rapidly. Okay, and now this.
Yes, they were laid down rapidly a long time ago in across multiple different eras.
This is my very first talk at St. Cloud State. I was so nervous. The atheist about see what's being censored in your science class, free admission. And nobody goes, tables there are high. And interesting, he's trying to move. And I said clearly, a dead giveaway for intelligent design at multiple people. Just saying a lot. Okay, it's not provable. It's other ways. You're going to hear that. Science says evolution is true.
Not provable?
Well, okay, it's not provable. There's something else there. Can anybody hear science? Listen real closely. Can you hear science saying anything?
Dr. Bochi says.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't say anything. Science doesn't do anything. Scientists, however, they look at the data and they interpret it based on what they believe. That's key. They interpret it based on what they believe, and then they go off and write the articles in Smithsonian and Discover and the encyclopedias and the textbooks. And if they don't believe in God, they're going to have a godless explanation. Okay, and that was the big hurdle for me. When I first saw the creation perspective when I was almost 40, I thought, you mean the textbooks are wrong? You mean the science books are wrong?
Well, they're not, but whatever.
And there's limits to science too. Scientists can put them in and to make sure that thing won't just sink into a bunch of dust. Another fallacy is that, and now the evolutionists are saying, no, we were never concerned about that. Yes, you were. Going to Real Science Radio, rsr.org, and search rocket scientist, but just think, but everyone believes.
The dust on the moon thing is it's such an extraordinarily stupid talking point.
So the majority of Americans are creationists. And the bottom line is atheistic evolution. Man came here with no God at all. And then the middle one tries to have a foot in both worlds. That's the middle one, 33% said, yeah, God used evolution to make man over millions of years. And so that's where we're at right now. The majority of people are getting their tax monies taken away to teach a minority's perspective. That's what the two.
The majority, 33 plus 22 is 55. 55 is bigger than 40. What is this idiot talking about?
33% said, yeah, God used evolution to make man over millions of years. And so that's where we're at right now. The majority of people are getting their tax monies taken away to teach a minority's perspective is what's happening. Look at that trend. When I was a kid, less than 1 in 10 believed in atheistic evolution. And now it's doubled. It's 1 in 5, and it's pretty close to 1 in 4. And that's what motivates me to get out there and start asking people questions. I and talk. It's like, how did we get here? Was it creation? And
Okay, so you're in the minority according to that chart. Even if I add intelligent design, that still gets you to 42. You're in the minority.
Evolution or intelligent design. And this is St. Cloud State. I figured it'd be a landslide for evolution, and it wasn't. It was 43 to 39. It was nip and tuck. And when people would stroke evolution, I would always ask them, how did life begin? Because they can't answer that. And then I'd show them this sometimes, and so it helps them realize they have faith too. They have faith in blind chance and random collisions of atoms. Okay, and it doesn't answer how life began. Did the same thing at the community college. How'd life get here? And actually, creation won in a landslide. It was 49-21 when that was done. Okay, 6. And he said, well, that's where
the idea that you have like 100, you poll 100 people and you're claiming that you've demonstrated some sort of knowledge is just so asinine.
everyone else was putting it. And so, and I'd heard about this concept.
Oh, hold on, I'm going to write something else down.
But I'd never seen it, but I'd heard about it. It doesn't matter what issue it is. Okay, there's 15%, 15 to 20% on both on either side, and they're not budging. They're set in stone. But the middle, 60 to 70%, they're going to go wherever the current is strongest. So I'm doing what I can to make sure that creation another anyway. But it's not true. You know, not all. And besides, that's not how you determine truth. I'm talking about that.
Jerry Bergman. I have a video on that guy. He's really just a complete moron.
But it's not true. You know, not all. And besides, that's not how you determine truth anyway. The consensus of scientists does not determine someone or a group says so, as blamed the one thing that wrote a Doubts Darwin's textbooks called that it's almost know who that list.
Just explaining why you the list of
Even if it was wrong on the high wire, that's what you're missing. It was wrong about the geocentric universe. They taught that for over 1,000.
Okay, you know what's funny? Go Habs. I think that's a hockey logo, but it reminds me of St. Cloud State because that's where this guy does a lot of stuff at. This is funny. Boom, there you go. Every time I've ever seen your PFP, I think of St. Cloud State. And so it's all coming full circle right here. So there are no coincidences. This proves that Spanky is the one true creator because I worship Spanky and you write comments on my YouTube channel. And that always made me think of St. Cloud State University. And this fucking idiot teaches, well, he doesn't teach, but he goes to St. Cloud State University and that's their logo. And we're all here. And so therefore Spanky is real. There we go. What in the F? Yeah. It looks just like the Calgary Flames logo. That's crazy. I don't actually know what it is. Go Habs, you have to tell us what your PFP is because I don't actually know.
Years saying that everything revolves around the Earth. All the planets, all the galaxies, all the sun revolves around the Earth. And you needed people to stand up to the consensus, people like Copernicus and Galileo and Kepler and Newton, to finally throw that on the scrap heap of history where it belongs.
Yeah. Who is the opposition? Oh, right. That's right. Christians.
Stood up to the consensus.
Montreal Canadiens. Okay.
They also taught that big rocks fall faster than small rocks was a consensus until Galileo proved that wrong with the Leaning Tower of Pisa experiment. And then the consensus was bloodletting. Hey, if you're sick, you got bad blood, we better take some out of this arm so you can get...
So Aaron brought up Calgary, but that was wrong. But GoHabs is in Calgary. I told you there are no coincidences. Spanky's truth is being revealed to us right in front of us.
Better, and if you take it out of that arm, you got to take it out of this arm too, or you're going to be out of balance. And that's how George Washington died. They took too much blood out of him. But his last words were, "Doctors, I'm dying, but I'm not afraid to die." Can we say that? See, when a Christian dies, they just go from one life to the next life. It's going to be a glorious day. But if you're not a Christian, it's may not be. It's into existence. It's not only ridicule and then go and deliver babies without washing their hands. They rejected from ideas, which was really...
Okay, I have learned everything that I need to learn from that. I know basically what strategy I'm going to use, but it's going to take me several hours to write down what I'm actually going to do for my opening and all that. Man, what a dipshit. Like an actual fucking dipshit. Man, it's almost 2:00. My whole day is gone. Not really, but well, that'll be, what are we at? All right, I'll stick around for until 2:00. So it's now a Q&A time, chat. So chat, what do you want to know? My dad was an atheist. His last words were that nurse has a nice ass. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Spanky, for Scrubs. Oh, shit. Sorry. Hey, Zach, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I've been a fan for a really long time, and I was just wondering, what strategies did you implement originally to get so good at debating so many topics and so good at these different topics that kind of don't interloop with each other? Evolution and flat Earth is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So there's multiple answers to that. Probably the biggest thing for me was being a science teacher, because you have to force yourself to learn all kinds of stuff when you have to teach stuff. So I was, for the 6 or 7 years of doing that before I started doing online debates, was a huge part of it. Yeah. So all of these books, man, I don't need to dust up here. Yeah, there we go. All these books and the hundreds of hours I've wasted watching YouTube videos. Well, not wasted. Watching YouTube videos, that was a big part of it as well. I wouldn't say really any of this helped me with flat Earth stuff, but and then the third part of it I would say is I legitimately wasn't very good at it right away. I've talked about this a lot before, but I knew what the facts were, but I didn't know how to lay them out in convincing ways. And also, for a lot of the could the average person, like standing on the street, prove that the Earth isn't flat? Most people don't really think about how to do that, and so you might actually get tripped up. And I wasn't all that great at it right away. It came with tons and tons of practice. So, I guess.
Awesome. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Awesome. So, just like the experience of debating and kind of understanding how flat earthers can twist the words and make it, I've had my fair share. But I will leave. Thank you for answering my question.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. And then I have another one, Justin. So, Justin, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Mr. Peterson. How you doing?
Good enough. How are you?
I'm all right. I am finishing changing a diaper right now, but I wanted to know, in this crusade of ours to rid the world of indoctrination, whether that be, I don't know, flat Earth ideas or religion. Do you believe that curing religion is like possible? That's the way I'll put it.
Curing?
Yeah, it's indoctrination. It's like curing flat earthism.
I mean, they've ceded an unthinkable amount of ground historically, if we think about things. So, I mean, will it ever go away? Maybe not. Probably not. It's hard to think that it would. But I'm okay with that because of the the general arc of progress that we have made, and I think the future holds well for it as well. So,
Right.
I mean,
put it
I
into
don't
work.
think the world I don't really have optimism that the world will never have religion in it, but that's not doomsday level stuff for me, because again, like I said, the amount of ground that they've ceded is really extraordinary, and we live in a better place than we did 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. So
Right.
I'm okay with it.
When you do like these debates, one of the things I think about is like the audience. So you have a very split audience between not really those who the people on the other side that are listening are apologists that you're never going to convince.
Right.
Huh?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. On the other side, you have only apologists listening to. You don't have the Christian population. So you have your side listening, and then the anti your side. Uh, and I think the reason why most Christians who are not a part of like the apologist subsection, they don't listen because apologists have kind of put in, I guess I'll say, a presupposition. Like when I was a Christian, which would have been many, many years ago, um, I didn't think of you and your group as like atheists, but anti-Christians, because that's what you were sold to me as, the enemy. You get what I'm saying?
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. So so I had to do my own research and like look at it myself, because like as when if I listened to what you said 10 years ago, I would kind of throw it away quickly because I was, oh, look at this Satanist pretty much, or something along those lines. Like, oh, he just hates God. And that's the reality of it. Who told me that? My mom did. And who told my mom that? Some apologist. So
Yeah, I'm currently reading this book right now, The Darkening Age. And the author talks about this. So this isn't about the Middle Ages, the quote unquote Dark Ages. It's about the lead up to that. It's kind of about the history of Christianity in the Roman Empire from like about the year 100 to about the year like 550 or something like that. I can't remember what the cutoff is, but they talk about in here this extremely dangerous and pernicious idea that people who don't believe what we believe don't believe in something that's merely different. They believe in something that is wicked and wrong and evil. And it's literally not okay to let other people believe in other things.
that's
And that
Christianity. Yeah.
is the horrible harm that is still going on in Christianity that we have today. So
Yeah. But how do you fix that? Because like I said, it's not that you have a different idea or even the right idea. You are just anti the church. You're anti what I believe in. How do you fix
well,
that?
I basically accept that it's probably hopeless. I mean, there are people that have deconstructed out of fundamentalist beliefs, like Justin Deconstruction Zone. He's literally one of them, and there aren't a lot of those. But
Nope.
I mean, for me, I guess it's more just about recruiting undecided voters. Well, I'm going to put it that way.
Mhm.
That's because if we don't do anything, then like what are undecided people more likely to go with or go toward? Somebody who has a message or somebody that doesn't have a message? Well, we have to have one out there. So now,
Yeah, I agree that there needs to be a message out there. I don't know when it'll reach an audience. I know you like you said, obviously you're gonna reach a few, but I I think it's pointless. But I
mean,
respect it.
Going back to what was said before, I mean, although they believe in all kinds of stupid things, there's all kinds of stupid things that they no longer believe in. Like there have been periods of time where, like, literally the Bible says don't make, like when it says no graven images, that's been interpreted, and it probably the original interpretation very well may have been literally don't ever make have pictures of anything of any kind. Like don't have any form of artwork ever at any time. And, you know, like the Taliban, they've banned music, the listening to of music. There have been, it has been a Christian perspective of the past like that. Literally don't ever have pictures of anything. We condemn the practice of being a musician or an artist. That has existed. I don't think it was ever super popular, but extremely stupid ideas like that have existed, and they almost don't exist anymore. You know, the really funny like meme about like white people don't season their food.
Right.
Literally early Christians did not believe in that. They thought it was wrong to take pleasure in eating food. They thought it was wrong to take pleasure in, this is one of the pernicious ideas that's mostly extinct now, that is found in early Christianity. The taking in of pleasure of things is wrong. So think about like how a monk or a what the fuck's the word? I can't think. Well, I guess like a monk, like how they live their life, that the extreme austerity and all of that, the removing themselves from pleasures or whatever, which there are good things about that probably that we could use a little bit more of in this world, but it has been taken to extremes. And so like literally, yeah, the taking pleasure in eating food thing. If you want to know something really wild, everybody, you all need to look up. Let me go to YouTube and find it. The Dark History of Breakfast. I think this is by yeah. So everybody needs to watch. Let me share my screen real quick. This video right here by Answers with Joe. So the guy that invented breakfast cereal, he had a Christian commune, and they did all kinds of fucked up things. Like they would punish people for masturbating in like really sadistic and cruel ways and things like that. But he was one of these really hardcore, you may not take pleasure in anything types of people. So he invented cornflakes because it had a high nutritional value, but there was absolutely nothing about it that was appealing. Like he didn't add sugar or anything like that to it. That was the point of him inventing it. It was a way that people could get their daily bread without committing the sin of enjoying it. So again, to circle back to what I was talking about earlier, this is part of the, I just try not to be so much of a doomsday or a naysayer or whatever, because this is something this is a battle they have historically lost. And okay, we've made not as much as I would like, but progress has been made.
Right. There's like I said, there's other places where it exists, but basically your message is being misrepresented before it gets to them. Like, hey, just so you know, you're gonna hear this, and this is complete bullshit, and he's just saying this, and then by the time they hear it, they just kind of close their ears, like, oh, I already know what you're gonna say. So I think that's something that needs to be better planned for, maybe. I don't know. There really isn't much you can do, but yeah, that's where, I mean, 80% of the population believes in some sort of major religion, something like that, maybe more, right? So I don't know. People are hard in their ways. It's hard to break delusion. I wouldn't even call religion itself delusion, but it's something along those lines. It's hard to shake faith. If I believe something, it's hard for you to get me to not believe it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I guess the only thing we can do about that is output, educational content or whatever, so that like we're never going to have our own churches or indoctrination centers. I guess you could call the educational system the equivalent of that.
That's what
And
they say.
you know, we have compulsory education, so that we can't do any better than that.
Wait,
I wouldn't
did you
think.
know that like at least when I was in high school 9 years ago, I could opt out of the evolution classes.
Yeah, that's
And I
pretty
believe that's
common.
still a
So
thing. So I can opt out of that.
yeah, fuck
If I
that
don't want to
bullshit.
learn it, I don't have to, because I may be indoctrinated by the schools. So I can say I don't want to be indoctrinated, and I want to stay indoctrinated in my indoctrination anyway. But that's just another weird thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's not an uphill battle. It's worse than that. But
it's a cliff.
yeah.
It's rock climbing.
All right. Well, I will continue to listen, but I'll talk to you again soon, Mr. Peterson.
Sounds good. Thanks for
Take it
being
easy.
a viewer. Peterson, opinion on the parentheses great state of Nebraska. Let's remove those parentheses. Was born and raised in Nebraska. I thought it was cool. You're from South Dakota, and I'm watching your home tour video. My fiance is from Rapid City. Rapid City is a cool place. I've never lived there. People that live there affectionately refer to it as Crapid Shitty, which is, I fucking love that nickname instead of Rapid City, Crapid Shitty. But I don't know. It seems like a pretty cool place. But my opinion on Nebraska, I don't have all that strong of an opinion on it, I guess. It's a little more, I would say Nebraska is, I mean, it might actually be a little more boring than South Dakota. South Dakota, there's really nothing great about it except in the West, and it's like Badlands National Park and the Black Hills and that kind of area. East part of South Dakota, if you like hunting and fishing, and that kind of stuff, then it is actually pretty beautiful. And well, beautiful. that wasn't the point. It's good. I mean, the people I know that are from there, you know, they like it, but it is a little bit. I mean, you have to like the idea of living in a town of only 1,000 people, which is, I don't know. Maybe that says more about us and how shallow we are that that we look down on that. But no, I mean, Nebraska, I've just never, again, it has natural beauty like South Dakota does, but I don't know. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It's just that if you don't like it, like if you think South Dakota's boring, you're not upgrading by going to Nebraska. And that being said, you're not upgrading by going to Minnesota or North Dakota or Iowa or Kansas or Oklahoma either. So like I'm not picking on Nebraska necessarily. Now I saw this earlier. No, I've never heard of that. Sorry. Fun fact, Nebraska sucks. Your fiance's called it Crapid Shitty before. That's hilarious. West River, Best River. That's kind of funny. When is this debate happening? It will happen on Saturday. I'm not going to stream it. So I think maybe I'll do a post-debate stream. But the reason I don't want to live stream it is because live streams don't get views post-stream like my video uploads do. And this is how I make a living currently. So like, for example, my Andrew Wilson debate, I think that if I hadn't live streamed that, if I would have just recorded it and then uploaded it, I think it probably would have got 3 times the views. So I don't think I will live stream it for that reason, but it'll go up the very next day. All right. Average Reddit atheist. What's
Not
up?
the average Reddit. I'm the Reddit atheist. I feel offended. Believe it or not, Christians actually gave me that nickname, even though I've never been on Reddit.
They like to throw it around, yeah.
Okay, so do you have any nice way to talk about evolution to creationists? Because I seem to fail at it miserably. You know, how to convince them to not be a creationist and at least accept the theory of evolution. Just get to theistic evolution. You don't have to completely be an atheist. Just just a little bit of the science. Have you had any success in that? Because I feel like I've had zero success.
Oh, I've probably not really had success against them either, I wouldn't say. But what I have found myself capable and pretty good at doing is pointing out the absolute blatant contradictions in every like logical argument they make against the science of evolution, just demonstrating that they're guilty of it or as well, or they're far worse in it. But what I also think I've gotten pretty good at doing is just making them prove what the evidence would be and acknowledging that we have the evidence. And so like I make them prove it to themselves. That's the best you can really do.
Okay. Well, usually the problem I have is, I explain a concept to them, just a simple concept. And then when I ask them to repeat it back at me, it's like it went one ear, went out the other ear.
Yeah.
I don't know if you experienced that.
Basically, yeah.
Oh, I have, well, for lack of a better word, I have more faith in the children I deal with than the adults I deal with, because the children, at least, they ask really good questions.
They're moldable.
Yeah, it's like they ask really good questions, and then I have to go back. Oh wait, they asked this question. Let me see what the hell. But yeah, that's my experience.
Wonder if I can find. Yeah, this is an old video. Oh man! All right, here let's. I'm gonna kick you out, but watch this video because it's one of the funniest examples of showing them the proof that I've ever done. So.
Oh, just one more question. Do you also talk to them in Spanish?
I can't speak Spanish. I know like 100 Spanish words, but I can't really speak it.
Okay, because I find the ones that speak Spanish are a lot worse than the ones that speak English. Just saying, and I'm not a Spanish speaker. So
interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you live in America?
Yes.
I don't know. Mexico's extremely Catholic, which Catholics are less dogmatic than other Christians, but compulsory education in Mexico ends at 8th grade. That could be part of it too, I guess. I don't really know. Mexico's very conservative, so I don't know.
Well, not right now. Now they're very liberal, but I guess it takes a while.
I mean, I'm thinking like culturally and politically, I guess, which, yes, they're kind of the same thing, but not exactly. Anyways.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll shut up. Thank you.
All right, let's here, you guys got to check this out. This video is really old. How old is this? November 2022. So this is only 2 years old. About 2 1/3 years old. Huh.
It's true. Like, what do you mean by that?
That it happens.
Okay, does it happen in terms of cross species?
What do you mean cross species? Like, can a species mate with another?
I believe was
here. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit here.
Some sort of it was but like,
or a species that could ever evolve long exists. But what happens is species become different species over very long periods of time. But no modern day species could ever evolve into another species that already exists, or a species that used to exist in the past. That's plainly impossible.
Sure, but like get at here is like this like notion that like humans shared a common ancestor, because this common ancestor, which I believe was some sort of it wasn't like an ape. It was a very specific type of
This might not be the video I was thinking, but I know I used the exact same picture. So let me see.
Something like an ape that resembled an ape. And
right, we still are apes.
Well, so in the classification of the Homo sapiens sapiens species, they're closely tied to apes. I wouldn't say that they are the same, though.
Do you know what makes an ape an ape?
Well, I would say that like things like not just their genetic makeup, but like size, shape, dimension, etc. of their structure, which yes does relate
science to make it somehow irrefutable. Science is just a way of gathering information.
This isn't the video. I don't think it is either. Now I don't think it is. But what happens is I have this exact same picture above my head, and I ask the guest, if evolution was true, what would the evidence look like? And he explains this picture, and then I pop it up, and then the guest says, and those skulls don't prove anything, by the way.
Information to guide our way of thinking. Science is a process that allows us to come up with what's the best possible explanation. Smaller, the skulls are.
Let me see if I can find it. I don't know what it's called, though. November 25th, 2022. Oh, man. Well, I'm going to see if I got... I should probably get out of here, but I'm going to see if I can find it anyways. What time is it? 2:30? Today's Tuesday. I don't really have anything else to do, so... Okay, here we go. Oh, I had to have uploaded this to YouTube, right? Let's see. No, it's not any of those. Oh man, I guess maybe I never uploaded it to YouTube. Because I'm way back in the old videos now. Huh. I really thought I did. Only she believes free will. Huh. I guess maybe I never uploaded it.
Are smaller because the individuals were shorter in stature. We can't see the foramen magnum, but the foramen magnum is a little bit farther back. The foramen magnum is the hole in the bottom of your skull.
Over time, become.
Well, anyways, sorry. I thought that was it, but that's not it. And I wouldn't be able to find it on TikTok. It was such a long time ago. The angriest man in the world? Dude, what the hell? No, I don't think it's that guy. Is it?
We have.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat. I was trying to find the video. I remember this guy. I don't remember this happening during the conversation, though. All right, we'll watch this, and then I gotta go.
From different species. I can't see that being fathomable. It's not recorded in history. It's not recorded in any bone structures that we've ever found. It were not recorded in anything in all of history. What we have is chimpanzees, and we have humans. There's nothing in between. There's no recorded anything of in between. There's no recorded history of anything from anything in between. We have bones from mutant human beings who were discarded. We have bones from people who were misformed and misshapen who didn't live too long that we have found that look arbitrary and close to something that could be considered ape, but it's not actually ape DNA. And these are things that have been looked into. So I'm curious why you're confused about that.
I'm not confused. I'm curious as to where you heard those conspiracy theories, because those aren't true. Okay, I got bad news. This isn't the video either.
Where is your proof?
We have a huge number of transitional fossils for humans.
Yes, for that's human adaptation. That is not coming from species. You understand the difference between human adaptation?
This is a completely different species.
No, time out. No,
maybe I could find it on TikTok.
I'm not saying that's a human skull. Okay, I don't know
what
what's
not. It's Australopithecus afarensis. It's a completely different species.
Listen, I could show you 5,000 pictures too, and they could support my topic just as much, and that doesn't mean anything to me. That's fine. That's fine, dude. You could be showing me an imp in literally chimpanzee up into you.
They're not.
You're literally telling me that. I don't care where you're getting your info or where you're getting your dude. They look like apes.
You don't care about data. You just reject the data.
What data? From who? What data from who? Who skulls are those and where, and who found them, and whose are they and where?
Richard Lenski discovered several or some of these. I know that one off the top of my head.
I have no fucking feelings about your picture whatsoever, and you're not listening to my point, and that's fine.
So you're telling me that there could never be evidence that would persuade you, because here is the evidence, and you preloaded it with a conspiracy theory, and then you said you don't care, and then you just doubted the objectives and
what do you think?
You just doubted like the credentials and the objectives of the people that discovered it.
About me? What do you think you're showing me?
These are extinct hominids. These are transitional human forms.
They're not transitional. Who says who? Show me how that's a transitional human form.
So if you take the traits
looks like
that
human skulls and ape skulls is what it looks like.
Humans are apes.
No, we're not.
I found it. I finally found it. All right, here we go. Man, how long have we been on this? Like 20 minutes? Okay.
Was staring him right in the face.
What proof is there of evolution when it comes to human beings? I see some skulls up there, but what proof is there of evolution?
Right, you cannot be serious right now. What?
No, I'm serious. What proof is there of evolution in human beings? You're looking up at some skulls. Okay, I see some skulls. They're different, deformed skulls, but...
Dude, what happened to me? Look how good looking this guy is. Ah, fucking A.
There's different deformities in different human beings.
This is not a Homo sapien. Neither is this. Neither is this. Neither is this. These are not deformed Homo sapien skulls.
The answer was staring him right in the face.
What?
I feel like, so like this was back in the day where a TikTok video could only be 1 minute long. This goes on, and now I'm not going to be able to find the other part of it. I mean, I could, but it would take me way too long. But he later on he repeats it again. He's like, no, what evidence, or what would, I don't know, like, what evidence do we have, or what would it look like? And I'm like, it would look like this. And then he just goes, well, it doesn't prove anything. So I don't know. It wasn't as funny as I remember, but that's because the video gets cut off. Anyways, I don't know if that was worth the wait, but that's what I got for you. Tomorrow, I don't know if I'll be live tomorrow. I kind of want to, but I'm not 100% sure what I'll be doing. So we'll see. If not tomorrow, then Thursday for certain. So I will see everybody laters. Bye.